They say imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. But do you want other people imitating you? Do you live a life where that'd be a good thing? Should you have to? I'm Steve, and this is Looking Intently. If you've been here before, you probably know I put out 3 short videos on the Bible each week. Have you subscribed to the channel yet? If not, take a second. You click on this logo here in the lower right, and then when you do, there'll be a bell icon. You click on that to make sure you're notified and you don't miss any of these videos. I'm going through the book of Philippians now. If you need to catch up on any of those, you can click this link here in the upper right, and it'll take you to the playlist. You can pick whichever one you need to. We're coming to the end of chapter 3, and there Paul writes, "Brothers," in verse 17, "Brothers, join in imitating me, and keep your eyes on those who walk according to the example you have in us." Imitate me, Paul says. Now, is that something that just an apostle should say? That, he was an apostle, he was Paul, he was a super saint. Or is that something that every one of us, certainly every one of us as mature Christians, those of us who've been at it a while and should be at that mature point, is that something for all of us? Well, the end of the verse gives a clue to that. As always, context. He says, keep your eyes on those who walk according to the example you have in us. Not just me, but us. And Paul's referring there to his traveling companions, people who we know weren't apostles. And so, this is something for every one of us, again, as mature believers, to live in a way that other Christians who see us can imitate us, and we could even say to them, imitate us. Now, why is that? Well, one reason, of course, we should live that way just because we should live that way. We should be following God's principles for life. But the other reason is that even though Christ is our ultimate example, and really in imitating us, they're imitating Christ, but that was true in Paul's day as well. The reason he made this point is that in some ways people can relate to us maybe easier than to Christ. They know us better. They know something about us that they have in common. So again, it's Christ's example we're getting them to follow, but we can be a more tangible example to them, and we have the responsibility to do that as believers, to do whatever I can to make Christ's example more tangible, more real, more relatable for someone. Well, have you ever, just stop and think why this is important, have you ever been inspired by another Christian's example? Maybe someone you know personally, maybe you read about them in a book, and it just really, again, for whatever reason, there were some details there that helped it become more real, more tangible, and helped you live your Christian life more like you should, which is more like Christ. And then, do you realize how important it is for you to be an example? How often do you think about that? That I need to be, if I'm someone who's, again, been a Christian for a while, I need to live a life that is an example for other Christians, those who are growing and maturing. And let me just say this, I don't say that, and certainly Paul doesn't say that as another guilt trigger. Oh great, here's another thing I'm not doing as well as God wants me and expects me to do. No. View this as the privilege that we have as Christians to be part of the kingdom, to be part of what God wants to see happen in the lives of others. That's how God wants us to view this. That's how God wants us to do this. So follow up on this, apply this yourself even more based on the things that we've seen here. And as always, read the good book like a good book.